All right. And we are here, Melissa, Mackey, and myself, following up on the SMX questions that we couldn't get to on Wednesday or Tuesday. I forget.
Wednesday.
Days are a blur to me with SMX. So, Melissa, thank you so much for taking your time to jump on and make sure we get all those questions answered. We haven't seen them. They're just here in a document. I copy pasted them. So we're going to go fire away right here, like we did in the coffee talk. So, okay. So, from Jared Gamer, and I don't have the context from before, but I think we had answered that question back, on Wednesday. Jared said, we're concerned we're paying too much because of the low landing page quality score. The main one is a new one. And I think we were talking about like, how do we think through, quality score in general, ad rank, and then like where the ad strength plays into that.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this a little bit on the session. And they were concerned they're paying too much because of a low landing page quality score. The way I would answer this is I'll give an example of something I was just looking at the other day doing a client report. And that is, we switched to maximize conversion value for this client from just a maximize conversions bid strategy. Their CPCs went up. And this is where there's, quality scores that are low, but their conversions like tripled. And the value of the conversions went up. And so you really need to look at what is the value that you're getting. If your landing page is converting really well, who cares if you have a low quality score? Define how is paying too much. And there's other ways that you can pull those levers. Not sure what your thoughts are on that, Greg.
No, I think it's similar, and we had kind of touched on it the first part, but I believe that I don't know the exact examples that were given, but Amy Hebden had an example on RSAs, and one of the examples was Robinhood start as low as $1, and then another example was it wasn't Credible, but it was a name like that. Credible, get going with minimum requirement to start is $500. Now, Credible or whatever that company is, you can go watch that session. They're going to have a low quality score, right? And that's not landing page based, but they know, okay, we're looking. If you click on this ad, you need to have $500. That's the minimum that they have. And same with like accredited investors, where you have like $250,000 and blah blah blah. Like we've done that in the past, where we're like, we're going to tank the quality score. We're going to do some of these things. So I think, to your point, Melissa, like that's the right answer. You want what works. Some of these things are just like metrics, right? And it's a quality score. It's an ad strength. It's a click-through rate. It's a conversion rate. It's a CPC. What is the end result? And some of those things like a CPA, right? Especially if you've got a good quality lead coming through, that is the holy grail of your metrics. Who cares about the other metrics? That's my perspective on it.
Yep. Agreed.
So, and I would also just go listen to Amy's on that, because she debunked some of that as well. So, and then one other thing, just on a note, and so to Amy's article as well, she uses ChatGPT to run through and like, hey, summarize this landing pages. What are some of the benefit propositions of this product? Hey, who are some of the personas? So if you are trying to do that, maybe it's also like your ads too. Like, how do you match what your landing page is saying? Make sure your ads have that, somewhere like that as well. So I thought that was interesting.
It's a great use of ChatGPT. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. From Steven, he had said, I'd love to chat with anybody that's worked to set up offline conversions for CRMs in the home services space.
Yeah, we haven't done home services, but we've done a lot of CRM setup. I wonder what his exact question was, but yeah, we've done a lot of that, and it's important to have your funnel stages. So sometimes we've got a couple of clients where they've set up offline conversions and they just have one conversion point. So that's not really that different from using tagging, except that that it made it into your CRM. The really value of CRM setup is when you have a lead, an opportunity, and a customer, and you're passing all that data back, and then you can use value-based bidding with it. So I don't know that it's that different in home services versus other lead gen, but that's what I would say about that.
Yeah. And just candidly, because we can talk here and go back and forth. We don't have a time restriction. I'm not sure what the constraint is, right? Like you're probably getting from ads specifically, somebody coming through, filling out a form, a call only ad, a call asset. Maybe
Mhm.
a location might be one where you're
Mhm.
worried about that, but then you're not really going to have that offline conversion import.
Right.
So I might say like, hey, you should be able to track some of these things, right? Like you could
Yes.
use a call rail, call tracking metrics for a phone system. Really work that, and you should be able to see all those calls that you generated. Maybe it's like not the import, right? But maybe it's like, how do we track that properly within call tracking metrics? How to come up with systems, things like that, or call rail. And then tracking like the leads. Like, I don't know where these leads are coming from that aren't coming from phone or web.
Right.
Right. So if it is
Right.
coming from phone or web, I wouldn't look for this export of like, hey, I found somebody. I asked them, where did they find me? And they said Google Ads. Like nobody ever gets that right. So I would
No,
just,
that's completely inaccurate. Yeah.
so I would just do it yourself. Like this should be doable without having it to import,
Yep.
unless it's like store visits, but you're a contractor. So I don't get that part.
Right.
So I think you should be able to get it with calls or leads.
Yep.
Okay, another question from Steven here. What's your stance on combining campaigns under portfolio bid strategies? Do you group them based on similar goal, or do you do it based on performance? We are doing TROAS bid strategies. And
Yeah.
think about it for
So
TCBA too.
yeah, absolutely. So portfolio, what I found when it works best is you want to have it be similar um products, services, whatever. You don't want it to be really different, but where it makes even more of an impact is if performance is really different. So if you've got one campaign where your CPA is $200 and another campaign where your CPA is $1,000, if you put those into a portfolio, it's not going to work very well. So you need to make sure that you're setting it up based on similar performance, similar types of actions. For example, we'll do a lot of portfolios for all of brand campaigns, even sometimes across different regions. If they perform similarly, we'll put all the brand into a portfolio because that works well, even though we want to break it out by a region or by some other means for budgeting purposes, but we can lump everything into a portfolio bid strategy.
Yeah, and I'm really similar with that. I was just trying to pull out one that we just built for a client with our sort of like our budgeting with everything, and one might be based on like, to Melissa's point, product type. Like you want those all to be really similar. But we might say we are going and we have a campaign that is targeting shopping. Maybe we also have a campaign that's targeting search as well, just so we can kind of have broad match in there and make sure we don't fall through the cracks. But for something like blue widgets, we have our budget that we want to stay in that budget for. So for us, it's usually around like-minded products, like Melissa had said. Like the one thing, again, if you have different, different item prices and things, that gets really bad. But it
Yeah.
just allows us to like control that more and say, hey, we have $1,000 a day for blue widgets. Cool. We've got $750 a day going towards shopping, 250, going towards our broad match search campaigns or something like that. And then it just makes it easy like that. And then if we do see that like it's going one way more than another, and all of a sudden the broad match is really eating up all that 1,000, and it's broad match at 600, and like, because when you clump them together, you don't have any say.
Yeah.
Then we could just separate it, boom, and be like, hey, broad match, you now have 250. We are not having that portfolio.
Right.
Cool. Okay. Next up from Vive or Vive, right? I think that's what they said about marketing. Vive
Vive.
marketing. Vive
Vive.
marketing. Okay. I had another question on shared budgets. Is it better to set budgets individually, or are shared budgets fine as long as they are in the same bid strategy?
Yeah, I think shared budgets are fine. It can make things a lot easier to control. You just have to remember that you're using them. um, I think a lot of times people forget about it or they try to make tweaks and then realize that something got out of whack. It's all about keeping track of what you're doing. Google recommends shared budgets for portfolio strategies. Um, but I will say for one client, we're using a portfolio that does not have shared budgets and it's working phenomenal. So, follow this, but also do your own testing.
Yeah, totally. And then I just one other note to put on this. when we start campaigns, I like having shared budgets and I find myself moving away from them more. But again, if you can put that bigger pool in there and let Google be able to shift that budget between those different campaigns, it typically works better because you have sort of like more data around that shared, that
Exactly.
portfolio budget. And then again, if you start saying, oh my gosh, broad match is just eating shopping's lunch, then you can just sever that thing and have it off onto its own budget. So again,
Right.
if you ever think you're going to need its own budget for a campaign, I think starting with those makes sense. And then I think the problem people fall into is they just put them into ad groups, and then you're kind of toast because you can't really undo that. Like you
Yeah.
have to move it basically.
You have to read
And
structure. Yeah.
yeah, and then the big part is with those two campaigns and shared budget, all that data stays in that campaign. Like that's the number one thing. You need data.
Yeah.
Okay, another question, I guess a comment from Chad. He was talking to Jen in the audience and said, Google reps seem to be useless 90% of the time.
I would disagree.
I would too.
I mean, are they useless? Sometimes, yes. The ones that call me at random hours and just
Useless.
out of the blue are useless. Yeah, don't answer your phone if it says Google. But the ones that reach out via email that I choose to engage with, and I'll almost always take a call at least one time with a rep. And as we talked during the session, set the agenda, take control. This is your call. So they're asking for your time. So take advantage of that, set the agenda, say, here's what we're trying to accomplish. Here's some challenges we're having. Here's some things we're thinking about testing. Give me your thoughts on that. And that works well. They respond well to that. And we've gotten the client I was talking about earlier with doing TROAS that's really got triple the amount of conversions. That was a suggestion that Google helped us set up. And it's killing it for the client. We have many examples like that. So they're not useless 90% of the time. You have to, but I think that if we don't, it's just like any campaign. If you don't set it up correctly, it's not going to perform well. If you don't set the expectations for a call with a Google rep, it's going to go badly because they're just going to be like grasping at straws for things that's on their list and not focused on your list because you didn't come with a list. Okay, rant over.
No, that was great. I want your Google rep. They got that increase for you. Like send
Yeah.
their name over.
Yeah.
No, but I think our expectations are the wrong expectations from PPCers. Like we come out there and like, hey, these people are like here to actually really help and care about our clients. I don't think for the most part, if you look in aggregate over everybody large, or let's say forget large, but medium and small, I think a lot of that is really like, how do we get you into these platforms? How do we get you into these different things? And I know that there's like compensation based on that. But I think like when they're like, hey, we're going to set this up and run through the standard report, like I know that that's going to be fairly useless. But when we were talking on Wednesday, we had these products that the sale price was accurate, and it's the Google found on price and Merchant Center didn't match the sales price. It did match it, but it had an error. We submitted the review. The review came back on Thursday, and we didn't pass the review. So we still had all these items disapproved. So I hammered the Google rep again. Again, that's when I need the help, right? It's like, hey, we need to advertise these things. Is there anything you could please expedite this? And I had it done same day, right?
Yep.
So for me, that is something that is a lifesaver. It's like days and days of being able to now have the ability to advertise these products where you might not with the Google rep. Now, again, I don't care about any Opto score or any of that other stuff that they do. But like for me, it's like these people can really, really help you and really can help your issue when you're in a pinch. But like, I'm not like, again, I'm going to use my brain for the most part. And if they've got suggestions, great, I'll give it a shot. But they're not like a magic pill.
They're not a magic pill. The other thing they can help with is setting up enhanced conversions, setting up offline conversion imports. There are teams within Google that specialize in this. They can help with if you're having a billing issue, they can put you in contact with a billing team. These are groups within Google that you and I don't have access to regularly. It's not like there's an email that says enhanced conversions at googleads.com. You have to have a rep that puts you in contact with them, but then they can help you get these things set up. So it really is worth talking to them about it, and they can point you to other resources within Google. So don't ignore those. Just ignore the calls. Don't ignore the emails.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a question from Thomas here, and Thomas says, we have a competitor that is using absolute top impression share to try to cut into our total impression share. I think we have countered effectively. Doesn't say how they countered, but any tips or recommendations? We are the leader in our space from a paid search perspective. Or maybe that's from Thomas, I believe. I might have some of these names wrong. I just copied and pasted. So we might be off by one. I apologize in advance. So somebody's using absolute top impression share to try to cut into their space.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I would say, are you getting results? Are your results affected by what they're doing? If it's not, maybe don't worry about it so much. If it is, then take a look at what. But you get into kind of a race to the bottom. Is focused on trying to outbid competitors or trying to out target impression share them. If you're the leader in the space, you should have a better quality score than the competitor, and you should appear ahead of them, even if they're doing these tactics. So I think a lot of times it's easy to get focused and fixated on what your competitors are doing, and maybe not focused on what you should be doing in your own results.
Completely agree. Like if my competitor is like, hey, I'm doing max impression share or absolute impression share, like I'm happy. Like I'm happy that's what they're doing. They're not like working on their business goals. Like I'm
Right.
living that rent free in their head that this is what they're doing against me. I would say like do not try to like at least what I wouldn't do is I try to like go beat them from an impression share standpoint and just keep doing. If what you're doing is working, let it keep working. They're going to spend more. And what'll
Right.
probably happen is you'll see that strategy be rolled back, right?
Mhm.
Like if you know there's something to that you're better on than them, you can try to be more aggressive on your bids and make them pay even more. But like you have this ability to like really like take them out into the deep end and have them try to, tread water for as long as you feel like it, because it's not a good bidding strategy to try to use. So I would almost
Yeah.
like use it to your advantage and be like, hey, on some of these ones, we're going to be more aggressive. And then by proxy, they're going to be more aggressive, but we're still gonna be within our range, but a little bit, I don't know. I wouldn't worry about it. I'd be happy about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Unless,
Yeah. Agreed.
cool. Okay, Melissa, from Jen here. Jen says, how do your search strategies differ between the Google Search Network and Microsoft Search Network?
Oh, good question. Well, the strategy is usually the strategy. It doesn't differ that much. Tactics might be different across because Microsoft doesn't have exactly the same thing as Google. They try very hard to copy Google in all the features and everything, but they're not exactly the same. Um, but honestly, when we start out with new campaigns, we usually do the identical thing on Google and Bing at the same time, and then make adjustments based on performance. So we have some clients where Bing is killing it and they just don't have enough, there's not enough volume. Like if they had more volume, we would spend more. Um, and Google is maybe there's more competition or just doesn't have as close of the ICP that Bing does. And then there's times where it's the opposite, where Bing performs horribly and we just end up shutting it off. But we usually will test both. Strategies are not that different. They're not that different of a search engine. Um, Bing has that audience network that I hate, that you can't get rid of. So there's that, but still it's like optimize for your performance, lower your bids, lower your spend. If you're getting a ton of that traffic, put yourself on Microsoft owned and operated only, and you're still going to get that traffic and just see. And if it's too much and it's not performing, then shut it off.
Yeah, and you have to talk to a rep to get out of it.
You have to
It's
talk
very
to a rep.
hard. We've done it, but yeah. And then the only other thing is like Bing has those multimedia ads as well, where you can get a really big visual in there and it can go up to like 40% increase. We do it for some clients and it's nice. So if you do have a category where you're like, really, really well. Like look into those multimedia ads because it just takes your search and really gives it a big pop with an image. So that'd be one other thing. And then just on the shopping side, I know it's sort of the statement that was GSN, and I'm assuming it's a search network. Max conversions works on Microsoft. So you can't max conversion value works on Microsoft, where you can't set that up out the go anymore with the shopping campaign on Google. It's a great way to get campaigns set up there.
Nice.
Okay, and then from a seam, there's not a question, it's a statement. Okay, so from Austin, for optimizing landing page experience, have you run page accessibility checks and heat map analysis? Landing page optimization goes just beyond page speed increases.
I think that was a response to the other person who was worried about their
I think
quality
so
score.
too.
And that's a good suggestion. Looking at, you can run it through, what the heck is the tool that Google has? It's like really an SEO tool, but it looks at page speed and
Yeah,
core
Lighthouse.
values. Yeah. Yeah. And then something like a Microsoft Clarity that's free that you can install on your site, and it gives you heat maps and you can see, what people are doing. And that's very illuminating. We had a client who installed Clarity on their site, and they found that their CTA that was at the top of the page with the form, people weren't clicking on it, and they're scrolling down and they were clicking on something else. It was very interesting. Not what any of us would have guessed was happening with those users. So while that may or may not help your quality score, it's insights into user behavior that you can apply to fixing your landing page experience. And the core vitals, I think that's what it's called, core vitals, will tell you if your pages load slow. So that's important, right? Page load speed is huge.
Yeah, and then Google used to have that amazing tool Optimize, where you could do A/B tests, MVT testing, or multivariate testing. You could look into a tool like that as well. The only issue is with anything that's MVT testing, you just really need to you really need a big sample size, right? So even if it's just A/B tests to start, that's probably a good thing. And then everything else, like I would just test it, and you could, again, MVT might test a title, a subtitle, and an image, or a call to action. Like 4 things. The more you have, the more data you need. So I keep it simple.
The other
Okay.
thing real quick on that is you could use experiments. You could just do really simply. You can make a different version of your landing page and use a Google Ads experiment to test them.
Great point. And not enough people use those experiments. They're actually really nice now. Okay, another question from RF Smart, right for you, Melissa, here. Has anyone found success in limiting weekend spend for B2B? A lot of our B2B clients' data show that they do get some leads on weekends. So we'd like to spend some, but far less than on the average weekday. Even with slimmer ad schedules, we typically see campaigns hit their daily budgets just over fewer active hours, and thus at very high costs. This is for a campaign with automated strategy where bid modifications are ignored. So you can't just be like bid modification lower on the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. So weekend performance for B2B depends. We have some clients we shut it off entirely because they don't get any decent results. We have others where they just run on Saturday or just run on Sunday. Others that leave it on. We usually leave weekends on by default until we have some data. Excuse me. But you do have to look at, one thing to look at would be the hours of the day. Are you getting crappy traffic at 2 a.m. on a Saturday that is very unlikely to convert? And just limit the hours of the day that the ads are running on the weekends. Keep it at 9 to 5 or whatever your data shows is working. Or you may need to decide to turn it off if you're getting some results, but it's not worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze, as they say. Then maybe turn it off, especially if you're limited by budget, and save that money to spend during the week when you're getting better results.
Absolutely. I just, one other thing that we do sometimes is we'll do off-hour campaigns, right? So if we know it's that, especially if there's like a phone element, right? Like if you're getting leads via the phone and the phones are no longer, operated outside of a certain time frame, you might say we've got an on-hours campaign that's going Monday through Friday, 8 to 8 or whatever you want to do. And then off hours where you have like a wrap, right? During the weekdays, you've got that wrap. Maybe to Melissa's point, we're bidding more aggressive, instead of a CPA of $100, like we're looking for the day, we're looking for $50. Good. It might not spend, but if we spend, we don't get something at half the cost, and it's a few, like I'll take that. And then also like on the weekend. So We do that quite a bit just because we have a lot of different buying intent, especially for some like B2B e-com that we do. And I'd say that works well. I would just test and be like, look at that data and be like, what is this data like showing me? Don't have any conceived notions on it and be like, oh yeah, we're just bad in the mornings. Saturdays are fine. Let's put it in, here, and let's be really aggressive with the bids. In worst case, like if we have a very aggressive TROAS or TCPA, it just doesn't spend. Like that,
Right.
people we're so worried. It's like the worst case is it just doesn't work and you don't spend any money.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the same as being off. Like,
Exactly.
who
Nothing
cares?
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is fun. All right. From Dan
It is.
here. Yeah, this is a regular segment here. From Dan Carden, it says we've done heat map analysis and pass on all pages, past core web vitals. What kind of accessibility checks? That looks like it was a comment to another person. There's another comment from Amber, and I was assuming is about that weekend stuff where she had said, have you tried day parting? You can manipulate bid spend based on day of week and time of day. I suggest updating that and talk about the bid modifier. Again, I think you can campaign that differently if you want to. Okay, so from Awesome here, they say, do you still bid on branded terms? Obviously, they convert the best when you have a small ads budget. Or do you prefer to spend on the non-branded keywords, as clients will get those conversions anyway from organic? The client I'm specifically thinking of is an HVAC.
Yeah. So I talked about this a little bit during the session where we had a client that decided to just cut. They were running kind of full funnel, heavy on non-brand, and then they decided to cut back and just do brand. And while their CPAs were phenomenal, just running brand, they also saw their volume go down, 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 down. They did this for a quarter. By the end of the quarter, the volume was a fraction of what it was at the beginning of the quarter. And the only explanation for that, because nothing else had changed with their business or anything else, is just you weren't running non-brand keywords to make people aware of you. So, you can look at the opposite and say, am I turning off brand and just let non-brand do it? But gosh, there's such low-hanging fruit. And I've done experiments where we shut off brand campaigns and then performance was horrible. So I think you need both, and you can control the budgets of your brand spend. Just don't spend a lot on the brand terms. And but I always like to do it at least a little bit, even if your budget is limited, because you're getting people who are already in the market for you, and they're going to convert at a high rate.
Yeah, and it's a little bit dependent also like on where you are, and if you have like an actual keyword in your name, you're probably going to have to do it a little bit, right? Like if you're, so in this example, it's HVAC, right? And if you're like, hey, I'm Dominic's, or sorry, what was the name? Dom, or Awesome. If I'm Awesome's HVAC supply, you're probably, and that's like what people know you as. Other people are going to match like HVAC supply with a phrase match in there. And then people are going to start showing up for your name. So I think you want to see like, what do those SERPs look like currently with your brand stuff? And then the other thing we tell our clients, it's like brand is a necessary evil. Like I don't like doing it. And then in the reporting, I pull that reporting out of there. Like I think there's so many hack agencies that like take brand and put it in and they're like, hey, here's look at our return. And it's like,
yeah,
this is all brand. Right. So I think like when you do that, it's really important to take in your reporting, be like, here's brand, right? Here's remarketing. Here's our scalable non-brand, right? Where we're going. And then let's look at new customers and things like that. But just having that almost as like a reporting line, but not the main feature, like that goes a long way with people. And it should, if even for like your business, like you don't want just all brand. It's not good.
Yeah. So
sense.
Greg, do you still separate brand campaigns out from non-brand, right?
100%. Everything that's non-brand, we have every element of the brand that could possibly be matched and negative it out, right? So like, so it's all negative. And then we'll have, for shopping, it's a little different because you can't really like add things in, but we have we have a very, 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 very higher TROAS for that. So that it's like, the main one might be like a 200 TROAS, and then the branded one would be like 500. So you can't do it perfectly on shopping. But yeah, we have search, we remove brand. negative the heck out of it and then report on that. And then we just have like a branded one. I've also been playing around with that restrictions. It's not bad, that restrictions where you can just put in like a bunch of different broad match terms and try to do that. And then that actually could be good for conquesting is something I'm trying next. It's like, can we take a brand that we want to restrict it to that might be like a competitor brand, find that brand and only go towards that for like, like power tools or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I ask because we just inherited a client who has literally brand keywords mixed in ad groups with non-brand.
You
It
just
is
have
a
no
hot
visibility
mess.
to
Yeah.
what's working. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. And then they're
it's
sitting there going, look at our great CPAs. It's like, oh my
no,
God.
it's,
This is
and then
a
it's, you have
giant
to like,
mess.
yeah, like educate and be like, hey, just so like, I'm going to go through and find any keywords I can. And like, this is like your actual CPA. Like, so
Exactly.
this is like our benchmark here.
Yeah.
Like we removed
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah. It's crazy. Anyway.
Okay. We're getting up to it here. I think we got 3 left.
Awesome.
So this is from, there are some comments back about brand and non-brand. I don't think there's any questions in here. Apologies. That might have been it because everything else
Wow.
was sort of helping out because we were a little bit behind. So I have one more that came in via LinkedIn that I'm
Oh,
just going
yeah.
to address here so I don't have to type it back. And you can get it. It's from Igor. And he had a question that was more on the sales side. And I think this was more from the Andrew Lulk side of things, but I think we can both just jump in here. Or actually, it's PMAX and shopping. It might be tough. He had said, he was talking about like, how do you prioritize a product that's on sale with PMAX versus standard shopping? And so the quote says, if the search terms match both products in PMAX and standard shopping, then prioritize the PMAX products that are on sale. And if there is no product on sale that match the search term, then it falls back down to standard shopping. That was sort of like a comment that Andrew and I had both made. And just to lay out shopping in Google Ads in general, you have 3 priority types, but there's a 4th: low, medium, high. So if you have a product that is in high, medium, and low, the high one should take priority. And then it won't show for those other 2. If you have PMAX, it takes the highest priority. It's up here. So if I have a SKU that is, let's say I'm selling a shirt, right? And I've got that shirt in standard shopping in high, but then I also set up a PMAX with a feed and I have the shirt in PMAX. What will happen is my shirt in standard shopping will go away. Everything will show via PMAX. So what I was trying to say is we have some clients where we have like these kind of like closeout deals and we've got all these shopping campaigns. We've got like boxes, case, all these different things of shopping. But when something becomes this like closeout deal, it is like the top business priority for the company. So what we do is we don't mess with the shopping campaigns. That product that is in like our standard shopping, that might be a case of something, it stays there, but it's also now in this PMAX, right? And because it's in PMAX, it basically shuts off because PMAX has it. And you can just use that to say for a sale, like you can turn PMAX on for include that SKU, and then the standard one will basically vanish. The minute it comes off that sale, it still goes into the standard shopping and it just comes back alive and it's got some data for it. So basically, he was saying, would you automate this with a script or a different way? No, it's mainly like if you're trying to use PMAX for like closeout deals, products, something like that, it will automatically take those SKUs and basically own them in PMAX and they all just fall off. So again, we'll have these different items. Sometimes you'll see an item just like drop in shopping, but it's because it was picked up in this closeout deals that we've got section here. So I hope that makes sense. For
Amazing.
that.
It made sense to me and I don't do that. I don't do shopping. So that was a great explanation.
It's nice because you don't need scripts or anything like that. It just kind of takes the the highest priority, which is PMAX, but Google just doesn't say that. Like, I don't know why they just don't say like, hey, standard shopping is they have these priorities and it says high, but there's really something that's like to the moon, but we just don't tell you that. So, okay, cool. Melissa, thank you so much for jumping in and helping to answer these questions. Again, this was really fun. Melissa is the Director of Paid Search at Compound Growth Marketing. You can find Melissa on LinkedIn, Melissa Mackey on LinkedIn. And then on Twitter, your handle is Beyond the Paid. Anywhere else they can find you, Melissa? Or Compound Growth
Those are pretty
Marketing.
much Compound Growth Marketing. Yeah, compoundgrowthmarketing.com.
Awesome. And if you want more of this, I have a weekly daily show. It's new with Barry Schwartz, where I cover the paid side of things, Monday through Thursday. And then Marketing Clock, where we cover all the news and have lots of sass and fun, that comes out every Friday. And you can find me at Cypress North or at Greg Finn everywhere. So thanks for all of your questions, and thanks for a great SMX, everybody. And Melissa, I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Bye.